Kate Lumpkin, who is a CSA casting director. How have you been? How's your quarantine been?
Oh, that's a loaded question to
I
start
know. It's been a whole
with.
year.
You know, on the surface, I'm very lucky. I'm healthy and well, and so are all of the people that I love. And I still have a home, and I am, so grateful. But if I'm being really frank, it's been a really hard year. It's been really tough navigating like what we're going to do next, when next even happens, like what that even means. Um, but it's also been really beautiful. Like so much really incredible stuff has happened, both like from a social perspective, but also from a creative perspective in this last year. And it's just been really cool to see what people are making and, you know, but how am I doing? I like to say I'm like 2021 good, like as good
It's
as you can be
yeah,
in
yeah. Just
2021.
taking like doing the one step at a time, one day at a
Yeah,
time.
that's it. That's all we can do.
Do I know what day it is? I
No,
don't.
do I know what year it is?
I don't know what month it is. You I do want to talk a little bit about your TikTok because you've gotten you're really good at this whole TikTok thing and sharing
Oh
your
my gosh.
light and
Thanks.
passion. What has it been like getting to like meet people through TikTok and do what you do on there?
It's like bananas. So when I started casting, I opened my own firm about 4 years ago, but I've been in casting for longer than that. But when I started my own company, I was like, I'm going to use Instagram. So the reason I wanted to start my own company was because I was like, there's so much information that I think if people just had access to it, this would be so much easier. Like a career would just be so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much information about what happens in an audition room and like the politics of everything and just like really simple answers that there are questions people ask all the time over and over again. And I was like, okay, I'm going to use Instagram and I'm just going to break down this wall and tell people the answers that they need to hear for free. Like, why not? What else? Why not? And so I've been using Instagram for a long time. And I realized that like the people that I need to help now are not on Instagram. They're on TikTok. And
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm just going to try this. And I started and was like, this is amazing. I'm obsessed with TikTok. I'm obsessed with the creativity on TikTok. I'm obsessed with the community on TikTok. And I was like, I know how to do this. I've been editing videos and creating content for the better part of a decade. So let's go. And there are not a lot of casting directors who are on TikTok.
No.
And the ones that I found are actually mostly involved in reality television, which makes sense. Of course, they would be on TikTok trying to find talent. Like that makes total sense. But I don't think there are any other New York-based theatrical casting directors who are utilizing TikTok that I have found yet, at least in a public way. They most certainly are probably on TikTok looking for talent, but like public facing. So I was like, let's go. So I just decided I'm going to do 2 videos every day, answering questions and also like letting myself be creative and make content that I want to make for me that has nothing to do with answering questions. And it's been amazing. The people that I've met, the chances, like the opportunities I've had, the people who've reached out. I got interviewed for a woman who's doing her thesis on TikTok musicals, and she's based in England. She Zoomed me from Spain, and she like reached out through TikTok. It's just so cool and really different, and I love it. And I love meeting new people and just seeing so much talent and so much creativity and like so much hype. People are just like hyping each other up like it's no one's business. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, the talent on TikTok is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really talked about Ratatouille, but $2 million to the Actors Fund for a little musical that started on TikTok. And now we have Bridgerton, which I'm a little obsessed with.
Who's not obsessed with it?
I'm very obsessed with it, although Marvel has taken over my For You page. I haven't seen a lot of Bridgerton content in the last few weeks, but
I think that's on purpose though, because I feel like Barlow and Bear are brilliant in the way that they have decided to share their creative process on TikTok. And I also think something is happening with the project. And so they're maybe slowing down a little bit so that it's like, no, we still got something up our sleeves. Like,
Yeah.
So I think it's been on purpose, but it's amazing what happened for their career from this as well. Absolutely. The fact that we're now referring to them as Barlow and Bear and know who we're talking about. And that's only happened in a matter of like a month and a half is bananas to me.
Yeah.
So I love TikTok. I totally get it. I am obsessed with it. I think it is so, the thing I like the most about it is that there are no gatekeepers. Like nobody can tell you no. You can create whatever you want to create and put it out there and be seen, and who knows what's going to happen from it. It's pretty magical.
You actually made a post recently, which I absolutely loved, and I watched it a few times just to like hear what you were saying. The idea of saying behind the table and the people behind the table instead of saying the people with you in the room or just the creatives. I'm wondering if you can like chat a little bit about that and that thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how much power words, and especially like jargon and reinforced words, have over people, but also have over the industry. And this phrase, like other side of the table, it makes me want to pull my hair out, because it just inherently creates an unsafe space in an audition room. When you say other, you are othering, you are making someone have a different type of power than you have. And so we teach this all the time. Like everyone teaches this in colleges, in elementary schools. Like from the time you start doing theater, you hear like, oh, when you walk in the audition room, the people on the other side of the table. So we're just saying like there is a divide and you will never be in that position of power. So like inherently when you walk in this space, you are less than, like you are already not in power. And I wonder what would happen if we as an industry just decided like, nope, we're not going to say that anymore. It's like we're all in the room, or it's like a creative space, or, you know, we're all at the table. If there has to be a table, then like, then like we're all at it together. It will collectively change the mindset. It puts more power in the hands of actors and dancers and creatives and all these people. And it creates a bigger sense of equality. And there are lots of other phrases in this industry that we need to change as well. But that one is like so close to my heart because I am sitting at that table a lot. And I don't think I'm better than anyone in that room. I don't think I have more power or authority than anyone in that room. And yet everyone walking into that space thinks it because of this one phrase.
Right.
That is reinforced.
Right. The casting directors and the creatives and the people that are in that room to watch you are there to watch you and enjoy your performance. And I think there's this weird stigma. It's not weird. I mean, I guess we're just like, it's how we're taught that the people that are, as the casting directors, the producers, directors, whatever, are judging us behind, judging us while we audition rather than are like, we have one slot to fill and we are hoping you are that person so we can be done with this project and move on.
Well, and I always like to reinforce this idea of facts versus feelings. So like the reality is every situation has facts and every situation has feelings. And walking into that space and saying like, people are there to judge you, that's really feelings-based experience. The facts are, like you said, like there's 1 or 16 roles that have to be filled. The other fact is if we're going to completely remove feelings, quite often the casting directors are not getting paid until the show is cast. So like they really want you to be right. Like because they want to pay their rent, like they want to eat a treat, so they really are so excited when you come in the space because you could be the difference between, like, for lack of a better term, getting paid and not getting paid, right?
Right.
So, and that's not why I do it, but I like to say that because I think a lot of people don't really know that.
Right, yeah.
And so we really are on your side emotionally and like feelings based and also just factually. Like we have to get the show cast. There are only a certain number of things, but we want you to be that right person, not just because we feel good when you are, but because we also want to get paid, pay our bills, also be creative artists and be able to create that whole family. Like there's so much going on there. The last thing you need to worry about is being judged. At the end of the day, if you need a term for it, it's an assessment. It's just figuring out what skills and gifts you bring to the party and then where they go. It's really not judgmental. I mean, I can't speak for everyone. There might be someone who's sitting there who like lives to judge.
Right.
Not everybody, but for the most part, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think part of that comes from like reality TV culture in that like on America's Next Top Model, on Project Runway, on all these places, they're called judges. On, what are the, like America's Got Talent. And so you think you can dance. It's a panel of judges. And so
Right.
it's people sitting at a table with their cups, like drinking their thing, that they're judging you.
Right.
And it's not that. This isn't a competition or a reality show. It's an industry, right? Like it's an experience. So that we got to separate.
Mm-hmm. I would say that. And I would also say, as much as I love, you know, the Thespian Society for high schools and middle schools, the conferences that we hold for young artists and actors and creators is it has to be, because it is a thespian competition. It has to be judged rather than, you know, we're trying to give out all of these, you know, this, that, and the other. I mean, they do that with scholarships to a degree, when they do that. But it took a bit of retraining of my brain, because I had done competition in high school for like, I think I went for 3 years, maybe 2 years. But then you have other like vocal competitions that you do in high school, and this, that, and the other. And then you go out into the real world, aka college.
But you said something really interesting just then. You said I had to retrain my brain. And this goes back to exactly what we were talking about before, about other side of the table. Because your brain in high school was trained, those people are judging me. This is a competition, and those people are judging my talent. You are now having to change that word in your brain that got ingrained there. To take that away, which is why I'm like so passionate about, like, these words have power over how we think.
Some of the questions that were asked on the Instagrams about, just to ask you. So a lot of people were wondering what you as a casting director look for in the room when we walk in, and what that is, whether it's professionally or, I mean, I'm sure many people have the same thought process if they're going to cast a show, regardless if it's high school, middle school, professional, whatever.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so I do think it's two different things. If we're talking about educational theater, the one thing we have to remember that's really different about educational auditions, and I'm talking like middle school, high school, and college versus professional, is that often in an educational setting, the person who's doing the casting is also the director, the choreographer, is your educator, and is like trying to cast for so many different reasons. Like there's so many levels to why people are getting roles. There's so much politics, all those things between the school. In the professional world, the casting director is not even technically considered a creative team member. So they are, which I think is a crying shame, but technically on paper, I am not a creative team member, which is fine, because what that means is I don't make any final decisions. All final decisions are made by producers and the director.
Please say that again, because I yell that at people all the time.
No, we'll talk. Honestly, like 99% of my shows would look very different if I got to make final choices. And I don't. The casting director's job is literally to bring people into the space, to know the talent pool of the area that they're in, and to be able to kind of curate a group of artists who could potentially create the world of this show. They also are there to like help navigate the decision making and provide context and all sorts of other things. But at the end of the day, I could be fighting so hard for an actor to get a job. And if the director's like, it's not going to happen, well, then like my opinion just doesn't really matter.
Right.
The power, though, that I don't want to diminish in my job is that I do have authority over a huge percentage of who comes into that audition room. Now, the other thing to remember, though, is the first question I ask when I start making a session is I talk to every member of the creative team and I say, who do we need to see? Like, who do you want to see? And anyone who's brought up, I'll try to get them in the room for them. So a huge chunk of who comes in, I don't even get to say. Like if we were looking in the breakdown for someone who was like a 22-year-old Latinx woman who speaks 6 languages, and they say they want to see Tom Hiddleston in the room, then like I would question it for a minute and be like, are you sure we're talking about the same role? But if they say yes, then it's my responsibility and my job to get Tom Hiddleston in that room. Tom Hiddleston is offer only, let's be honest. But like, that's my job. So there's a percentage of people that I get to bring into the space. So that's just like something to know about casting directors. What I like to see though, when you do get into that room, first and foremost, something that I want every actor to remember is when you're coming into a specific project, like coming in for a project, your talent is not diminished whether you get the role or not, because you have to remember that your talent is inherently unique and it may or may not fit in the world of the show that's being cast. And also, even if you think you're perfectly right for this show because you've seen it before, you don't know what this director or this production team is doing with this show.
Right.
I always give the example of this revival of Oklahoma that just happened on Broadway. If you look at that cast, you've never seen a production of Oklahoma cast like that ever,
No.
right?
Right.
And because that creative team made a lot of decisions on how they wanted to build the world. So you just don't know. So don't let, like, the thing I like to see the most is when someone has done the work to know who they are as a person and as an artist, and they just consistently show it from room to room, from day to day, so that everyone in that room can say, I know exactly what Claire does. Like, I know who Claire is. And it's not this project, but we're working on this other thing. And like, let's bring Claire in for that because you do you the best. And so I'm never looking for someone who hits the note perfectly every time, or who, like, consistently lands a perfect clean triple. Like, that's great if you have that skill. But when people talk about like the it factor, I think what an it factor is when people know who they are and they just share it without any shame or any guilt, and they just go for it. Because the it factor looks different on every person who has it. And that's because they're just being themselves.
Right.
And they're doing it with confidence and with just like unabashed love for who they are and what they do.
Right. Authenticity.
Yeah.
Telling, just being, yeah. I think the other thing is we have been taught, or at least we've been thinking of the idea that success equals being cast, success equals Broadway, success equals all of that. When in reality, like, that's not it. That's not it.
Success is a societal construct. It doesn't really exist, because what you want, what you think is success, is probably very different from what I think is success. Therefore, it doesn't exist. Like, it's not real. It's just in our brains. So yeah, you're totally right. And something else, I'm not walking into rooms to audition to be in plays, but something that a lot of people don't know is if you are a casting director, you basically have to audition to get the show as well. So
Right.
lots of times I'm approached by, my agent is approached and I get an offer directly because someone has worked with me before, just like actors who are offer only. But a lot of times when people don't know me, especially because I'm a relatively new independent casting director, I have to go through rounds and rounds of interviews where I have to prove myself and prove what I do. And a lot of times I don't get the job. And also, they tell me you didn't get the job because you don't have a Broadway credit. Right? Same as a lot of actors who are like, oh, I'm never going to get this job because I don't have a Broadway credit. And I'm like, girl, me too. Like, we're all on that journey together. But every time I have to pitch myself, every time I have to go in and prove like I'm the right person for this project, I learn so much about my point of view as casting director. I learn so much about what I want to do, where I want to be working, who I want to be working with. Like, and I write it down. Like, I write down, okay, what did I learn from this process? I didn't get it. I didn't get the show and I'm heartbroken, but also what did I gain from going through 6 rounds of interviews for this? And so that's the other thing about it. Like, you're right, you get the free dance class or you get to learn the sides, whatever, you're taking away. But also, every room you go into, you have to be learning something from it, or you should stop doing it.
Yeah.
Like, because you're not taking something away from the process, something about what you did or something about like what you learned in that space, then it wasn't worth it. Like, it wasn't worth your time. You have to keep learning and you have to keep liking learning. I'm not trying to diminish how much it sucks when you don't get the role. It does. But also, I have lost out on more shows than I've gotten to do. And so it's just something to remember that everyone in the industry feels that pain in some way, even if it's not exactly the same. We all have to continually prove our worth and audition, whatever that means, or interview. And we all have not gotten it. Like, we have all gone through that thing where we are just like not booking, so there is a level of compassion as well.
That, and even on any side of it, everyone has and had to start somewhere. Everyone on Broadway or, you know, whatever. And I'm trying to get past the idea that Broadway is the end all be all, because that's also something that we're taught, that Broadway is
Oh,
top
I
tier.
have here. I just want to be the person to say, if anyone is listening to this and they think Broadway is it is the only thing, they got to do it, they've got to be on Broadway. I am here to tell you, I work with a lot of like young students, and I'm obsessed with teaching people, anybody, but really teaching like young people. And I had this like 11-year-old girl who's awesome, and she looked at me and she was like, "But you have never cast a Broadway show, like, so why should anyone listen to you?" And I was like, whoa, okay. I was like, let's break that down. Well, I was like, okay, let's break it down. Let's talk through that. And she was like, well, Broadway is the pinnacle. It's the best theater in the whole world. And I was like, who says? Can you tell me who says? And she's like, everybody. That's just what it is. And I was like, who says? Tell me who says that. And she was like, I don't know. I've just heard it. And I was like, okay, anytime you can't actually find a source for something, you have to think about it in the bigger picture, and you have to look outward, because my career has been awesome. I have worked with some of the most incredible creatives on the planet. I've gotten to work globally on projects in basement bars in Brooklyn, all the way to the most expensive theaters in the whole world. Casts of 76 to casts of one. Like I've had an incredible career. And just because I haven't cast a show that is in one theater in a 10-block radius in one city doesn't diminish the work that I've done. And so I'm so grateful you say that over and over, Claire. Like, please, like, if that's the mountain you die on, like the hill you die on, like, great. Because there's really beautiful work being done. I'm not trying to diminish Broadway in any way.
Yeah.
But like, you're right, Chicago is doing the innovative work. And have we noticed how many transfers to Broadway from Chicago houses there are? Boop, boop, boop. Like, it's the same with DC and Seattle and Atlanta and LA and Austin and London and Sydney. Like, theater is being made everywhere. And whether it's a house owned by the Nederlanders, the Schuberts, or Drew Jamson, it doesn't make that the best.
Right.
It just, because art is subjective, period.
It is.
There is no best.
Well, art is subjective. Broadway theater in and of itself is commercial theater.
That's it.
So,
Las
you know,
Vegas East. Las Vegas East.
I mean, this is a very new revelation that I've had, because I watched an interview of Jessie Mueller, and someone was like, so what's the difference between Broadway and Chicago? And she was like, I don't know, the wigs.
Yeah. Dressing room size. She says, I don't know the wigs. I love Jessie Mueller.
She's like, I don't know.
And Jessie's a really great example of that, right? Like, she is someone who is from a Chicago-based theater family. All of her folks do theater in Chicago. And she was working consistently, and she was doing the work. And then when On a Clear Day happened and they were looking for someone so specific and so particular, like you said, Broadway called and they were like, hey, you want to come in and audition for this thing?
Yeah.
So if and when it's your time to do this work, like, people are actively looking for you. I am actively and consistently looking for talent all over the country. I'm watching, like you said, I'm on TikTok every day looking for talent. If you think I'm not bookmarking stuff and like screenshotting stuff and like making a file folder, you're wrong. I am doing that. And I'm not the only one, you know? So I am a huge advocate of know why you want to do theater and know what you really want. And if you want a house and land and you want to be a professional actor, you can do that. There are lots of cities in this country. You can go to Nashville and you can do that. Right? You have to think about all the things that make you a whole person. And go and plant where you can be the like fullest, wholest, realest version of yourself. That's when you'll have a career that you're proud of. Like, period.
For people out there who maybe are interested in the casting process and becoming a casting director or casting assistant, associate, whatever, do you have any insight or wisdom to share with the people out there?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, casting is not a fallback job. Like, I'm just going to say that one more time. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'll go to New York and be an actor. And if I like don't want to be an actor, then like I'll just do casting. Let me be very clear. Casting is very complicated. It is an art form that takes time to learn how to do. It's not rocket science. I'm not here pretending like I'm doing open heart surgery by any means, but it's it is hugely about relationship building, about there's a lot of business to it, a lot of memorization and networking and spreadsheets and
all of the spreadsheets.
Oh my God, so many spreadsheets. If you don't like
Yeah.
spreadsheets, don't be a casting director.
No.
But like politics, babysitting, like there's a ton that goes into what it means to be a casting director. So if it's something that you really want to pursue, I think a couple things that you can like be working on at any time. And that is figuring out like what your lens is, like how you see the world, what kind of art you're interested in making and being a part of. If you have like a specialty or a niche that people can rely on you for. People call me like the champion of the weirdos, which I love because like if you're doing a really difficult find, lots of times people will come to me. I always use the example, like I cast a play that was at the ART and then the New York Theater Workshop called Endlings. And in it, I needed 4 Korean women in their 60s or older who were willing to scuba dive live on stage. This is a very complicated ask. Like, on so many, who have to be tremendous actors, like, so that was a complicated ask. And I felt, Sammy Cannell was so gracious and trusted me to do that for her. And I did, but that's because I have spent a lot of time knowing that the work I really like to do is super specialized. That's what I love. So you can do that. I think internships are awesome if you can get them. They are some of the most competitive internships in the city as a casting director, internship. But I know you can learn a lot from them. I was actually never an intern, so I actually can't say I know you learn a lot from them. You were, so you can say that.
I will never know how I got that internship. I won't lie.
Great, but you did.
But I did. And I did learn a lot.
Yeah. So internships are awesome, but also, the thing that I will say about casting that not a whole lot of people know, there's nowhere you can go to get a degree in casting. It doesn't exist. The closest thing is SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design, has a casting department in their undergraduate school, which is very cool. But like that's it in college. So the way you get jobs in casting is by building your resume, doing the work, learning how to do it. So if you're actually interested, like go to your community theater and ask the leaders there, can I be a part of your casting process? Can I sit at the table? In college, maybe make a sacrifice one semester and don't be in a show and say, can I cast it? Like, will you trust me to cast it? Or can I sit with you and be a part of the casting process? Because it will help you learn how to do it. Like if your friend is directing anything, like say, let me be your casting director. Start doing the work and learning what it really takes so that when you get to whatever city you're going to, be it New York or Atlanta or LA or Chicago, wherever, you already have a resume that says, I've been doing this. I know what this is. Maybe not on a professional level, but like I've been doing this, because you can't learn about casting unless you do it. It's weird. It's like a weird job. You really can't learn about it until you're actually like in it. So that's I don't have regrets. I do have regrets, but I don't like live by regrets. But something I wish I had known when I was younger and an artist, I wish I had really known what casting was, because I think I would have gotten to it a lot sooner. Like I would have been like, oh, that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'd gotten to it sooner, I think I would have, especially in school, especially in high school, been like, can I cast this? Like, can I sit with you at that table and like really go through this and see what this process is? Because that would have made my like entree into the world of casting a lot easier, I think. This is an exercise that I tell everybody to do. I say, pick a TV show on Netflix, like sit down with a notebook and watch a show. And as you're watching it, make your different cast, like choose who you would get. In a perfect world, if casting directors actually got to choose, like pick a different cast or make your list of who you would bring in. If someone said like, okay, you're casting New Girl in 2012, right, who would you bring in for Jess? Like, who is the person you would bring in for Jess for New Girl, right? I have everybody who tells me they're interested in casting, I make them do that. I pick 5 shows and I say, okay, here are your 5 shows. Go cast them. In 2012, who would you bring in? And it's the same, like you were saying, look at your playbill, look at the credits, open your IBDB and your IMDb Pro, apps and like learn about people, learn who their agents are, learn what else they've done. Like if you find yourself doing that, you're a casting director. Like
Yeah.
if you are on IMDb and you're like reading the trivia and you're going and seeing what else other people have been in, like that's me 24 hours a day.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, I
Always.
like can't watch. Literally, I sit there and I'm like watching WandaVision, and I'm like, who's their agent? What is that? Like, if you're that person, then like this is a great job for you, and keep doing that. Like, keep nerding out on the IMDb page. It's a career,
It
period.
is. So my last question has to do with casting still.
Great.
When we open back up, when we're able to open back up, how are you / what are you wanting to see when it comes to casting with BIPOC, with LGBTQ plus, with representing people and our world on these stages?
Yeah, I mean,
Super deep question. Big question.
here's the thing. It shouldn't be a super deep question. It makes me devastated that you're having to ask me that question in 2021. Like, honestly, and I've been talking about this for 5 years consistently. Something that I'm very proud of in the work that I've been a part of is that if you look at the work that I've been a part of, the worlds that I've been so fortunate to get to try to inhabit and create are from very diverse like people, identities, backgrounds. I feel so lucky that people have trusted me to help build those worlds. And my hope is that that's not a specialized quote unquote thing anymore. That like people don't come to me because I have a specialized lens within like that I have a rich understanding of the trans community in New York City. Like my hope is that every office is able to work on those projects because those projects are being produced. My hope on the other side of this is that we see more art being produced that tells stories that actually look like our country, that look like our world, that are about people who are not old white people. As a white cis person, I don't need more stories about white cis women. Like we've done that, and like some of them are great. Some of them are a hot mess, but most of them are pretty okay. And like, I'm not saying we never have to have a story with a white cis protagonist again. Like, I exist, okay, that's fine. But it would be great if it wasn't every show.
Right.
So, you know, I think that also, though, it comes down to what's being produced. And I hope that we see more BIPOC and trans and non-binary folks who are producing as well. But also that trickles down into everything. It's how are things being run? It's, you know, you touched on college auditions before. How do we make college auditions free? How do we make it so that people from all backgrounds, all socioeconomic walks of life, all identities have access to education for free? How do we make sure that people who are in that creative room where auditions are happening don't all look like me? Like how, you know, there's so much work to be done in every aspect of this industry. And it's devastating to me that when you ask me that question, you say, this is a really deep question. No, it's not. It's the work. Like it's the work. And it should have been done for the last 2 decades. But here we are. And like, thank God the lid has been blown off and brave people have put their lives and their art on the line and said like, enough, enough. And if we don't listen to them, those brave people who have done the work and been so transparent and publicly personal, then like we are doing a disservice to this industry. And if we don't change, we deserve to implode, in my opinion, because it's time. It's time, period.
And if you don't know about it, hopefully you do, but I urge you all to read We See You What, Broadway for Racial Justice. You can check out AFECT, which is created by Karen Lebo and Ina Espinosa. I'll put all of that information in the box below, and any other kind of things that you would like to add, Kate.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is if you are a white person as well, it is your job, period, to speak up in places. It is your job to do the work. It is not BIPOC people's job to do the work here. And we have been so lucky, white folks, that so many BIPOC people and trans and non-binary folks have come forward and done a lot of the work for us and helped to educate us. That's a gift. That is a gift. that has been given to us. So do your work, like do your research, friends who are out there, like speak up in rooms where you haven't spoken up before, and like be a part of changing this. And that starts at the middle school level. Like if you are 12 and listening to this, you have more power than you know you do. Speak up, ask for what you want, honor the people around you. If you're in a college, demand more of your program. Ask them to be better and demand it. And if you are a professional, do the same. If you walk into a room and every person at the table is white, say something about it. Say something. That's how people change.
Yeah. And if they don't, then you maybe don't want to work with them anyway.
100% you don't. Yes,
Like,
correct.
no, just throwing that out there. Well, thank you so much for sitting and chatting with me. I'm going to put your links and your website and all of that down below.
Thank you for having me, Claire. This was awesome. It's so lovely to connect with you.
It don't mean a thing.